Silver Creek Studios, I'm Jared, and this is the BFIBs Almanac. We've got plenty of opening weekend news and analysis to discuss. The first homestand of the year has begun, so let's dig right in. As I mentioned previously, I went to the home opener on Friday with a few friends, and it was a little frustrating loss, but the overall day was exciting and a good time. I don't know if you've ever been to an opening day. That was my first one. I'm sure most of us have seen the opening day festivities on TV, if anything. But it was pretty neat to be there live and in person. It kind of started on the outside of the stadium for us on our walk up to the stadium. We had to park pretty far away. Our kind of normal go-to parking lot was full. Everything was full. All the streets were lined with cars. So we ended up parking pretty far away, had a decent walk in. And we got right around, I guess it was before patios, about a block over. There's that ramp on Shoto that we had to cross at that intersection. And I forget what the bar is over there. It's a block over from patios to the east. Anyway, as we were walking up, kind of taking our time, enjoying a beverage, plenty of fans in the streets out and about. We got to see the Clydesdales approaching, coming around. They actually had to kind of make a big U around the block there as they come up to the stadium. So we stopped. Everybody's taking pictures and videos of the Clydesdales up close. So that was pretty cool. We got to see them. And then we sort of made our way. What we didn't realize at the time was along the path that the Clydesdales would be going. And they, of course, had to stop at intersections and for traffic, and it was crowded and busy anyway, so they couldn't just kind of make their way in. So as they stopped, we would keep going, and then we would have to cross over at a parking lot and cut through here, and we ended up meeting the Clydesdales again at, what is it that goes, is it 7th? It goes right up to the stadium there. So we meet them again, and then everybody stops and they're taking pictures and video, and we're kind of like, all right, we've already seen this. Let's keep going. And so we make that turn up 7th, and we get all the way up to patios, which was crazy crowded, but good. And they had beer vendors outside, so you didn't have to go in to get a beer. So we got another beer at patios, and we're kind of waiting, standing around. We didn't want to necessarily go into the stadium that early. We were a couple hours early. And as we're waiting out in front of patios, what comes along but the Budweiser Clydesdales again? So we saw them, I guess, at least 3 times up close, and they'd stop, and everybody's cheering, and we're kind of like, all right, I've seen this. I already have video on my phone. No, it was still neat. So it was cool to see them up close. Seeing the wagon, the guy holding his case of Bud Light. So it was kind of cool. We all said he had a pretty good job. And then we hung out briefly at the parking lot across from patios. It's sort of I don't know if it's a private lot exactly, but I do think you have to have some kind of pass to get in there. Anyway, we were hanging out at that entrance, and who comes driving through there but Ozzie Smith and his Mercedes. And he kind of comes in and waves at the fans, and everybody's yelling, Ozzie. So I could have reached out and touched his car. It's how close we were, or his SUV. So that was kind of neat. And we made our way into the stadium and got our free giveaway magnet schedules, which are actually pretty nice. They're pretty big. Has a neat time to fly graphic on it. And we made our way through the stadium. Stopped for some souvenirs. A friend of ours had never been. No, he had been. He's from out of town, but he got a cap, and another guy got a shirt. So we got our nachos and beers, and found our seats just in time for the actual pregame festivities to start. All of the the Clydesdales coming onto the field, the Cardinals Hall of Famers coming out in the Mustangs, and enjoying and seeing all that. Now, I have to admit, I was chowing down on my nachos through the whole thing, pretty much. We had just gotten to our seats, We didn't time it quite right. It took a little longer to get our food and beers and all that stuff and get to our seats than we thought it would. And so, instead of clapping and applauding and cheering and enjoying all this, Cardinals opening day festivities, I'm standing there with a bucket of nachos in front of me and chowing down. And I felt a little guilty, but I sped through it and made sure that I was able to clap and applaud and cheer as the players came out. So it was neat. Neat to see all those former players, the Hall of Famers, some of our favorite Cardinals of all time, obviously. Neat to see them there and getting the cheers and recognition. And seeing the starters come out, and the whole lineup, the whole team. So it was pretty cool. All the Raptors bringing them out, and Ford is definitely heavily represented there. So all that was neat. The game itself was a little bit frustrating. We couldn't get anything going. Of course, the Padres had a rookie left-handed pitcher, and as we all know, rookie lefties always seem to baffle the Cardinals. But we only managed 4 hits on the day, 1 each from our top 4 hitters. Not a lot to cheer about during the game, but, it was kind of exciting in the sense that, so Flaherty wasn't very sharp, but he did pitch out of trouble. The problem is he kept getting into trouble. I think he had a runner on third 3 out of his first 4 innings, or 4 out of 5, something like that. It felt like there was always runners on and they were always getting a third, but he was, preventing them from scoring. So he did his job. It just wasn't as clean as you would like to see. On the other hand, the bullpen was not good. Leon and Reyes each struggled when they came in, especially Reyes. Brebbia, on the other hand, was very good. 2 innings pitched, no runs, no hits, 4 strikeouts. So definitely good to see Brebbia continue his strong run out of the pen. But Leon, who has been pretty good, didn't look good. He walked a couple guys, gave up, or did he walk a guy and then gave up a home run? I can't remember. But I called the Tatis Jr. home run. I didn't exactly call it, but I was saying, because a couple of the guys that we were with weren't real familiar with all the players and everybody, but I even said, this guy's a home run threat, but he is a rookie. And 2 seconds later, bam, home run, Tatis Jr. So that was definitely frustrating. But it was very exciting to see Goldschmidt get his first home run at Busch, his 5th on the season. DeYoung also got his 3rd home run. So that was fun. Ozuna got his first RBI, which was opposite field hit, I believe, which we kept saying he needs to be trying to do more of that anyway. But so obviously it was a great time being there for the game. Gorgeous. Well, it was a little chilly. I was going to say gorgeous weather. It wasn't raining, but it was cloudy and a little bit cool. But overall, it was nice weather. Always fun to go to the ballpark, but definitely fun to see all the festivities and be a part of that. Would have been nice to come away with a win, but still a close game, a 2-run loss, 5-3. So Saturday was a similar story. That was a 6-4 loss. Andrew Miller ended up getting the loss. He only pitched 2/3 of an inning, 2 walks, 4 runs. 2 of them were earned. But 2 of those those runs came on 2 home runs, which I don't know if that's the first time he's done that, but it's the first time in a while that he's given up 2 home runs in an inning. Waka was effective, but he did have 8 walks to 7 strikeouts. But with all that, he only had 1 earned run through 119 pitches and 5 2/3 innings pitched. So an effective outing, like I said, but not the cleanest outing. I'm sure he would love to cut down on those walks. But he kind of made up for it with the strikeouts. So good to see Waka kind of keep us in it. The lineup this time had more hits, so the bottom of the order was doing a little bit more. But Goldschmidt was 0 for 5, so that wasn't good. Ozuna did get his first home run, a crushed 455-foot shot into Big Mac land. So, the whole lineup wasn't really hitting, but a little bit more than the day before. Again, the bullpen failed us. Like we said, Miller was not good. He had the 2 home runs. The bullpen basically collapsed and is now becoming a trend. This is not good. We keep losing some of these games late. But 6-4 loss, you hate to lose, but when it's a close loss, you'll kind of take it because you feel like you're still in the game. We did get that the 1 run late to make it 6-4, kind of keep us in it. But you'd rather have a close loss than a blowout. But Sunday was a different story. So that was today we saw Wainwright pitch in his first game at home this year, second start of the season. It was a 4-1 win. Waino threw 6 innings and only gave up 1 earned run, 9 strikeouts, and no walks. So definitely a return to vintage form for Wainwright. The lineup was hitting better, 10 hits scattered throughout the lineup. Molina had 3 hits. He has not been doing anything so far this season, and he got 3 hits, which is exciting. Passed Kurt Flood the other day and Kenny Boyer today, so very exciting to see him kind of moving his way up the hits ladder. Bader and Wong each had 2 hits, so good to see the whole lineup kind of hitting today. Wainwright hit 93 on the gun a few times and was consistently at 90 and 91 with his fastball. He threw 100 pitches and was definitely mixing in that mid to upper 70s curveball with a mid-80s breaking ball, sort of a slider kind of thing. And then his fastball. He was hitting the corners, mixing speeds, mixing locations, kind of keeping the Padres guessing. He was pitching, basically. That's called pitching. He's not throwing his fastball as hard as he used to. He's never been a fireballer, but he's not hitting that 93, 94, 95 consistently. And he's also he doesn't have that crazy wicked break on his curveball, that 12-6 knee buckling curve. So he's had to kind of adjust with spots and mixing things up a little bit more. You can't kind of predict what he's going to do. It used to be you kind of knew the curveball was coming and you still couldn't do anything with it. Now he and Yachty are doing a good job of mixing up pitches and keeping the hitters guessing. So even though he's not hitting real high speeds with his fastball, since they aren't sure what's coming and when and where, they are kind of guessing on it, which makes it seem a little faster than it is. So very exciting to see Wainwright kind of bounce back. He kind of got things going early with sort of cheering the crowd on and getting his team fired up as they're coming out of the dugout. So that was kind of neat. We don't always see that from him. But I had seen and read that the players kind of got excited by that too, and it just kind of got everybody fired up. So he's looking healthy. I don't know if he'll continue. I think we're going to see sort of this up and down with Wainwright all year. He's going to look like this one day, and then he's going to give up 4 runs in 4 innings, another day, and it'll be a little bit of back and forth. Hopefully not. Hopefully this is what we see more of. But I think we should expect a little bit of both from Wainwright this year. So hopefully it's more of this than his first game. The bullpen showed up a little better today, including Miller. Now, he was brought in to face a lefty because, why wouldn't you do that? But he faced Hosmer. He got him to line out, and then he was lifted for Hicks. So instead of having him come in and face righties and lefties and kind of commit to a whole inning from him, he came in to do a job, face the lefty, get him out, and then bring in Hicks to face the righties. Hicks hasn't pitched in 7 days, something like that. It's been a long time since we've seen Hicks out there. Not totally sure what that rationale is, but they have not gone to Hicks for several games. But anyway, he came in and struck out Machado to end the inning. Also Reyes and Tatis Jr. to start the next inning. And he mixed in a walk in there, but he got Hedges to ground out to end the game. So definitely exciting to see Hicks start racking up those strikeout totals. He even got a hat tip or helmet tip from Machado after striking him out on a 3-2 slider. So that was pretty cool. So the bullpen did their job today. They held on to that lead, gave up no runs after Wainwright came out. So very exciting to see that kind of settle in. If we had blown a game today 3 in a row like that, man, that would have been very frustrating, very morale crushing. So Waino was the stopper today, that classic vintage ace stopper, and the bullpen did their job. So very good. We did have a couple moves. So Alex Reyes, who has been struggling, was sent down to Memphis along with Jairo Munoz. I don't think Munoz was sent down for anything he did. It was just they are in desperate need of pitching right now, and they don't have an off day coming up. So they need some arms, and they needed to send down Reyes, period, because he's just not being effective. They needed to replace him and get another arm. So I think they're going to go with a short bench for a little while. I know they've got a game coming up out of the country. Is it in Puerto Rico, I want to say? It's not in Mexico, I don't think. I forget. It's down south somewhere. I should know. But and I believe they implied, without saying it specifically, that Munoz would get called back up for that series. So, like I said, he didn't get demoted for not playing well or anything he did wrong. It was just a roster move to get pitchers, and he's the odd man out, the low man on totem pole. But he'll be back soon. But we've got Reyes struggling. He really kind of was up and down in spring. He was really effective in some outings and really struggled in others. And then he was sort of the same way this season. He'd have one clean inning, and then he'd really just not look good, walking guys and giving up big hits and RBIs. So they're sending him down, I believe, on a specific program to get right. But, it's going to be one of these, he's going to come in sort of scripted situations and stay in for a certain number of pitches and face a certain number of hitters, kind of regardless of the actual game situation. They're going to treat him in a certain scenario that they kind of create, which is fine, and that's normal, and they want to keep him as a reliever, so they're not going to make him a starter down there or anything like that. They just want to get him right. And honestly, I don't even remember what my evaluation is at the end of spring, if I thought it made sense for him to be on the big league roster. But definitely in hindsight, looking back, and I feel like I thought this at the time, he hadn't really shown enough in spring to say, oh, well, we've got to keep this guy on the roster. He just, he earned it, and he's forcing our hands to keep him on the roster. I think they probably should have started him in Memphis and let him totally get right and prove to everybody that he's totally ready and doesn't have any issues with command or anything like that, and then bring him up. Even if that takes just 1 or 2 weeks, it could have taken this long. We're 9 games in. He could have been in Memphis for 8 or 9 games, proving what he's got, and then call him up. But they felt like at the time, even with his sort of up and down inconsistency, that he gave the team a better chance of winning. Obviously, that didn't prove to be the case, and that is proving to be the case or to not be the case with some of our other pitchers too, namely Andrew Miller, but he is not in the same position as Reyes as far as being able to be sent down, and he's a veteran with no options and all that. So Miller is here to stay, barring, they decide to cut loose his contract, which isn't going to happen. But so we'll see. They are bringing up Tyler Webb, a left-handed pitcher, who I predicted would be the last guy to make the roster, and it turned out he didn't when we only went with one lefty, but he's the first lefty up. And then Giovanni Gallegos is a right-handed pitcher. He pitched pretty well in spring. He's not a name that everybody's that familiar with, but he should be a good right-hander for us. So exciting to see what those guys do when they get an opportunity. And they are going to get an opportunity soon because we have a 4-game series with the Dodgers coming up tomorrow. No day off. Michaelis will face off against Ryu Monday night at 6:45. So we're going to see what those guys can do for us. I'm sure, hopefully our starters go deeper into the game. I think that's part of the problem. We've only had 2 starts, I believe, where guys went 6 innings. That's Wainwright today, obviously, and I want to say Waka. In a previous start. So, or to finish those, I believe Flaherty started the 6th, maybe. I didn't look all that up. I should have looked that up. But our starters have not been going very deep, and that's sort of an issue all across baseball, not just with the Cardinals. Starters aren't going as deep. Relievers are being counted on earlier. That's sort of a normal transition in the game. Everybody's doing that, but most team construction hasn't really changed. So we're going with the same number of relievers that teams have always gone with, yet they're using those relievers a lot more, a lot sooner, counted on for more innings, more back-to-back days, things like that. So I think there's going to need to be a change as far as how many pitchers they carry, how often they're sending them back and forth, how often they use this disabled list, or now it's the injured list. We're going to see some more creativity with that, I think. So that's about all I've got. The only thing I wanted to get into is the division standings. Just kind of take a look at where the division is right now. So Milwaukee leads the division at 8-2. I don't think that's really a surprise to anybody that they would be in the lead. It is a little surprising that they're dominating as much as they are. They've got a healthy lead, and they're doing it in a healthy fashion. They're putting up a ton of runs. Their pitching staff is doing very well. They did lose to the Cubs yesterday. The Cubs snapped their 6-game losing streak, I believe. But then the Brewers came back and beat them again today. So Brewers are ahead at 8-2. Pittsburgh is in second right now at 5-3. And St. Louis is third at 4-5. So, just a half game or whatever behind Pittsburgh. A little surprising. I think most people predicted Pittsburgh to possibly be at the bottom of the division. And Cincinnati and Pittsburgh sort of going neck and neck for 4th and 5th place. Now, it's obviously early. We're talking 1 or 2 game difference in these records. But and they've played Cincinnati for a few, so St. Louis is third, like we said. Chicago is fourth with 2-7. So again, I don't think anybody's too surprised. Obviously everybody mostly predicted Milwaukee, Chicago, and St. Louis in the mix for that top 3. So for Chicago to be in fourth is a little surprising, but their record at 2-7 I think is very surprising. Nobody predicted that. It seems like their pitching is where they're really struggling. I think I saw a stat today that said Chicago leads the majors in batting average right around 300, like 307. But they also lead the majors in highest batting average against. So they are giving up a lot of hits. I think it was like the batting average against was 377. So they're getting a lot of hits, but they're giving up even more. Basically, their pitching has not been good. So especially, I think it's their bullpen especially has struggled. And then Cincinnati is 1-8. So a little surprising that their record is 1-8. Not too many people are surprised that they're in last place. I think after some of those moves that they made, Cincinnati made a lot of offseason moves, namely with, their offense and their pitching. They did a lot. So I think people expected them to still be near the bottom of the division, but that they would be improved and would be competing a little more. And a 1-8 record is not what they expected, I'm sure. I haven't dived into that to see, what those game records were. Are they all having 1-run games too? Are they competitive? I'm not even sure. I haven't really been paying attention to Cincinnati, but so that's where the division is. 8-2 for Milwaukee, 5-3 for Pittsburgh, 4-5 for St. Louis, 2-7 for Chicago, 1-8 for Cincinnati. And we've got 4 coming up against the red-hot Dodgers, who have been just crushing it out in L.A. I feel like they just hit multiple home runs every night. It's crazy. So that'll be an exciting series. We'll see really where we stand. We've had, this division series and then some Padres games, and we haven't really faced a team outside the division that's a playoff contender. San Diego could be, but I don't necessarily think they're going to end up being. But LA definitely is going to be a playoff contender, so it'll be fun to watch. All right. That's my assessment of the Cardinals. If I kind of had to sum it all up, I would say it's been very frustrating. In fact, let me, I want to pull up an email here from a listener, if I can find it. Bear with me here. All right, so he wrote me last Thursday and gave some very good constructive criticism. I'm not going to read the whole thing or quote it here, but basically said that he thought my tone was a little dark. He did, kind of concede that some of my criticisms were accurate and the fans haven't had too much to cheer about. Now, this was last Thursday, so it's before this weekend series, which, again, the first 2 didn't give us much to cheer about. He just thought it was overall my complaints and sort of attitude towards the team was something to complain about, a mediocre 500 team at the All-Star break, not after the first week of the season. So I have to fully admit that's definitely right. I have a tendency to see the negative or really pick apart, poor play, poor pitching, poor hitting approaches and things like that. And really kind of, I get down about it. And many of us do. Many of us hardcore BFIBs get down when the team's not playing well and tend to get critical. It's definitely early, first week and a half of the season. But that being said, I think we've seen some trends here that are definitely concerning. The bullpen has been an issue. The hitting approach has been an issue. Lots and lots of strikeouts racking up. It's getting a little better as far as the hitting approach and the way they're putting the ball in play. Not every run is scored by a home run anymore, though it still seems like it. And he did point out, at this point, 4 of the 6 games were decided by just a single run, and another was a 2-run loss. They could just as easily be 5-1 so far. Or for that matter, he pointed out 1-5. So starting the season on the road against a division opponent that's considered a top team in all of baseball, nothing wrong with breaking even. So he's definitely right about that. I need to maybe not be so doom and gloom, see the positive sides of things, which, I try to. But I also like to point out the negative because I feel like too many people ignore that and then get baffled later when the team is struggling. And I'm saying, I've been saying this since day one, look at this, look at that. But that's part of my negativity. So that being said, we have had now 7 games decided by 2 runs or less. And the other 2 games of the 9 were decided by 3 runs and 4 runs. So very close games. We're not talking about blowouts either way. So that's been exciting to have these close games. Too many of them have been losses for us. We need to get in control of that. But they've been competitive. The point is you've had competitive games on both sides. We're not blowing out teams. I'd like to see a little more of that. I think our offense is capable of blowing out teams more than we have, but we're not getting blown out either. Even though the bullpen has struggled here and there, they're not just getting destroyed, and our starters aren't giving up, 6 or 7 runs in the first couple innings. So that's good to see. It's promising. The back end of the lineup has definitely been contributing, which is good because you kind of never know what you're going to get with that. You kind of assume that your top 3, 4, 5 guys are going to contribute. They're going to put up the numbers that they're famous for. So when the back half of your lineup is hitting well, you hope that they continue to do that, and you assume that the top of your order will come around. So I think that's all very promising, and I hope they keep it up going into this Dodgers series. So we'll see. All right, that's all I've got. I want to thank you for listening. Please feel free to write in with any comments or criticism or any topics you'd like me to go over. We're probably going to be doing a lot of game analysis, but I will try to mix in, especially on maybe an off day or something, try to mix in some more nostalgia, break down a previous World Series run or something like that, or look at some, famous players and their stats and how they compare to today. So we'll do some more of that, but we got plenty of games to look at and plenty of criticism. So anyway, thanks for listening. Until next time, I'm Jared, and this is the BFIBs Almanac.